Hey all, it's Matt, your average gamer. We've got a really good video for you here. We have a showcase for Bloodfiend's arm. We've got several different builds that you could do with this amazing weapon that has a ton of bleed buildup and a lot of physical damage. So this makes for one of the best strength and arcane builds in Elden Ring, no question about it. You have over 200 bleed buildup with this setup on the weapon. We're going to use a whole bunch of different Ashes of War, and of course you have an amazing charged attack that does even more bleed. And there's a lot of fun Ashes of War like the one we're showing here with the Rot Flower. You can get that in the DLC. The DLC has so much to offer, and of course it has some amazing weapons too. This is probably top 5 so far in the DLC. It is an amazing bonk weapon that can do an insane amount of damage. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a cool build video. When you're done watching this video, odds are you're going to want to try some of the setups in this video. We've got some really amazing ones, including Savage Lion's Claw, Royal Knight's Resolve, Cragblade, and more. This is going to be awesome. Let's get to the builds on this one, and we're going to start with the only one that made it into another list on my channel, and that is roars. Now, people don't know how roars work. A lot of people are asking questions about how they work. You get a lot of damage out of these because you get 2 to 3 times the status effect build up and an alter charge attack that hits very hard. Of course, several of you do know how roars work, but a lot of people had questions about them, and they do alter your charge attack. We have Bloodfiend's Arn plus 25, we have any seal for buffs, and Blood Affinity, by the way, hit 51 poise, Roar Medallion, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Axe Talisman for charge attacks, Lord of Blood's Exaltation for bleed, Spike Crack tier for charge attacks, and then we have our Faith tier for buffs. Let's jump into stats. I'm showing the stats because they're timestamped, but they're going to go through quickly each time because they're the same for each build. We have 40 Strength, which gives us 60 when we two-hand. We have 45 Arcane, 25 Faith with a Faith tier, 60 Vigor. We're using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. The next cool thing you could use is Royal Knight's Resolve, which can give you a lot of physical damage and a good amount of bleed build-up too. This will add 80% more damage to your attacks, and specifically with charge attacks, it makes for a perfect combination. Don't worry, after this Magworm runs around a little bit, this video is mostly spoiler-free. I tried to make it that way. For the first week the game's out, maybe even 2 weeks, I'm going to try to keep spoilers to a minimum, and then after that we're going to be taking on a lot of the stuff in DLC, of course, because everybody will have time by then to have jumped on and played some. Alright, now back to Royal Knight's Resolve. That 80% increase is phenomenal on this weapon. Bloodfiend's arm is able to take advantage of that with its amazing charged attacks, and the amount of physical damage you get on top of that insane bleed buildup makes this for a great build. Yeah, so this Magworm is pretty resistant to pretty much everything, and he's about to take a good amount of damage from it. After he slows down here, we're able to get in some really hard hits. By the way, the charge attacks on this weapon, most of the time, keep in mind, dragons, Magworms, etc. are fairly resistant to bleed, but most enemies, 1 to 2 hits can proc bleed, which is crazy. And that's using that altered charged attack that allows for the extra bleed buildup. You get a blood splatter that adds additional bleed on top of that already 201 bleed at 45 Arcane. I've been told that number's 220 or higher as you continue to level up Arcane, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And we have Bloodfiend's Arm plus 25, Royal Knight's Resolve, and Blood Affinity. We have the Dragon Community Seal. You can hit 51 poise with this Endurance. Ritual Swords Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Axe Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Spike Crack tier, and Faith tier as well. Small mistake in this video, by the way, you can hit 51 poise with this Endurance. I didn't because I switched armor sets by accident and didn't realize how much poise I had for this video, but you can hit 51. We have 60 Vigor, 40 Strength, 45 Arcane for our buffs. We're using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. And now we're going to jump into Cragblade. Cragblade is absolutely crazy with this. It does a ridiculous amount of posture damage. You add in physical damage with Cragblade too. You get an additional 10 or 15% physical damage, and then of course around 10% more poise damage, which is huge here. And the bleed procs you're still going to get with these charge attacks are absolutely crazy. They're so good, honestly. That charged attack, that's probably going to be nerfed, yeah, possibly. But man, it is so good. We're going to use Cragblade again here, get the additional buff, and we're going to hit this enemy as hard as we can. Yeah, Cragblade is just ridiculously good. That smashing ability right there. I think the second one might have been a bleed proc, but even so, it's just crazy how much you get with that blood spatter, and then the additional damage you get from Cragblade and posture damage. Let's just jump into equipment. For equipment, we have Bloodfiend's Arm plus 25, Blood Affinity with Cragblade. We're using the Dragon Community Seal. You can hit 51 poise, Ritual Swords Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Axe Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Spike Crack tier, and Faith tier 2. By the way, you can add in the White Mask for even more damage. It's just not my style, so I don't run it that often. I feel like it doesn't really go with anything, but it adds 10% more damage with blood loss in the vicinity. We have the same stats, 60 Vigor, 40 Strength, which is 60 when we two-hand it, 45 Arcane, 25 Faith with a Faith tier, and of course, Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength to buff our build. And next up here, we have Savage Lion's Claw. This is an insane one for sure. Savage Lion's Claw is crazy good. This is an Astrovore that you can get in the DLC relatively early, and it's basically Lion's Claw with 2 flips. Yeah, you'll get a good amount of posture damage, and of course, because you have 2 flips with this weapon, you'll get a good amount of bleed buildup too. This is an excellent combination. You're going to see on the tougher version of Astal here, Stars of Darkness, how quickly he goes down and then gets posture broken and then taken out within literal seconds. This tough boss goes down. Yet all the ones on the list, this one might be my favorite for fun. That double flip is amazing. I like Lion's Claw to begin with. The fact that we got an Astrovore that now has 2 flips, it's so cool to be honest. I really do like this one. Let's jump into equipment. We have Bloodfiends are, of course, plus 25. Again, in Blood Affinity, all strength at Arcane, Dread, Community Seal, you can hit 51 poise. Ritual Swords Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Shard of Alexander. We have Lord of Blood's Exaltation. And then we have the Spike Crack tier and Faith tier 2. Let's jump into stats on this one. By the way, I did check this character. I went back on this character. You get hit to around, basically around 53 poise, so that's pretty good. So you're definitely able to get over 51. We have 60 Vigor, 40 Strength, same as before, 45 Arcane, 25 Faith with the Faith tier. And then, of course, we're using Golden Vow again for that 15% attack and defense. Flame Grant Me Strength for an additional 20% damage. Alright, at least that way you know what the buffs do. If you're not familiar with buffs in the game, they help immensely. And then Endure, but again, I had made a mistake here and not hit 51 poise, but it did not matter. Even using Endure with less than 51 poise, we're able to absolutely tank hits and then counter attack for massive damage and blood loss. In my opinion, Endure is the best out of all these. Endure is crazy good because of the fact that you could constantly take hits. You're not going to take that much damage because you're going to have the defense, and then you continue to use those insanely good charge attacks that do massive damage. The amount of blood loss is incredible, and this makes for a phenomenal build. Out of all the amazing builds in Elden Ring's DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, I believe one of the best is going to be Bloodfiend's Arm in combination with Endure, barring any nerfs. Now, this weapon could be possibly nerfed. I do believe they're going to hit the Thorn stuff first, as well as the perfumes. This weapon, though, could be nerfed a little bit. Let's just hope they don't over-nerf it. For those that don't know what I mean by over-nerf it, I'm talking Rivers of Blood. I mean, if you were familiar with Elden Ring's launch and you played and used Rivers of Blood about a month after it came out, after the Arcane scaling was fixed, it was insane. For several months there, it was an incredible weapon, and now, for me at least, it's kind of just mid. It's not that great. Alright, now we're going to jump into equipment stats one last time. We have Bloodfiend's Arm plus 25 and Blood Affinity with Endure, Drag Convenient Seal. Once again, you can hit 51 poise. Ritual Swords Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Axe Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation. We have the Spike Crack tier and Faith tier. Let's jump into our stats. And once again, our stats are going to be the same for all of these. You're going to want, at rune level 150, you want to make sure for Elden Ring's DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, you're going to need 60 Vigor. Most players, myself included, are going to need 60 Vigor. It is a challenging DLC. We have 28 Endurance, and then we have 40 Strength and 45 Arcane. If you're going to level past 150, get Arcane to 60, get Strength to 60, you're going to get insanely good, phenomenal damage. It's going to be incredible. You'll be taking down bosses very fast. I really enjoyed doing this individual highlight for Bloodfiend's Arm. I believe this weapon is one of the best in DLC, probably top 5 easily. Thanks for watching this one. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. If you're not subbed yet to this channel, now's the time to sub. We're going to be covering Shadow of the Erdtree like crazy. Making builds that are both fun and overpowered. I usually do different lists for different things. I'm, of course, going to be doing some fun builds throughout the summer, too. Ones that are more concentrated on less damage, but more fun. And then, of course, some of the overpowered stuff, too. Although this one, all the new weapons right now are fun to use because they're new to us. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you have a great day.